Hi, I'm Becky. My channel is What Beck Sews. Welcome back if you're a subscriber, or welcome if you're new. Today's vlog is all about the Style Arc Hope woven dress. Now, I have 5 versions of this to share with you, and I have included the extension pack, which was released earlier this year, and I've made up all of the versions from that too. Now, I was a massive fan of the Hope woven dress prior to the extension pack coming out, and when it was released I was quite excited to see the different versions. Now, I will put in the stock images on the screen so you can see exactly what I'm talking about and the styles that are there, but the original dress is a raglan sleeve with an elasticated cuff. It's got a billowy sleeve to it. It sits at the empire line and it just gathers in a bit like a smock style dress, but it's a perfect sort of buffet dress for the spring and summer seasons. But the extension pack includes a button down bodice, it includes a wrap over bodice, and it also includes a keyhole opening bodice. And then on top of that, you've got a couple of additional sleeve finishes to it as well. So you have a pleat sleeve finish, you have a cuff sleeve finish, and you have a slightly shorter sleeve finish as well. So which one would you like to see first? I think I'm going to start with my original 2 versions because I have altered one slightly as well, so it's definitely worth showing you that. So the first version that I've got to share with you, it's a very Becky 5 fabric. If you don't watch my channel, this is very typical sort of Becky fabric. I like anything bright, anything colourful. And if you don't watch my channel, please consider clicking that subscribe button to see more from me. So this is the Hope woven dress. On this one I added some waist ties. Now I haven't done that with any of the others, I didn't feel the need to. And when I also held the pattern pieces up against me, I felt like I needed to just add an extra inch onto the bodice, just because of my bust. There's no darts in this pattern, it's obviously a raglan sleeve, and I just felt that I needed that little bit give just to bring it down a little bit further. The pattern originally calls for a facing, and me and the facing did not get on. I don't really like facing, and you'll find that out when I share another make that I've done with a facing from this. So what I did was I finished this off with a bias binding, just flipped over the edges, and I think that worked just as well. In the back you have this lovely little keyhole opening, and you can see here because I've top stitched over the area in a slightly lighter fabric so it shows up. Now I will pop some footage in of me wearing this. This dress has had an awful lot of wear. Now this was the first version, well it wasn't the first, but was the first wearable version that I made. And what I will say is I made this up in my sizes, or as the garment dictates, and that puts me in a size 14. Now don't get me wrong, I have lost some weight and that could be the reason why I've shrunk, but even when I take my body measurements now, my sizing puts me in the 14. So what I've done with all of the other versions that I'm going to show you, I've actually sized down 1. So I've sized down to a size 12. Now I have a bust of 40, a waist of 38 and a hip of 46. The hip I'm not so worried about. What I will say to you is I have the size 16 skirt on because I like a little bit more gather than the original one gives. So I have upped the size of the skirt just to give me a little bit more gather. And I've gone for the midi length skirt on this particular dress. So that's the first version I made from a viscose crepe from Rainbow Fabrics. Then I went on and made this earlier this year. This is a So Hayley Jane fabric, which here in the UK is a subscription box service that you can get. I love this fabric, and I had a real beach vibe feeling when I made this up. I just felt like I should be floating around on a beach somewhere in this. So again, I've done the, this is the original version, the original bodice. I've added on an inch to the bodice itself. I've done the keyhole opening at the back, and I've done it with bias binding as I did with my original one. What I have done differently with this is I've left the elastic out of the sleeves. I felt like this should be floaty and free. So again, this is a viscose crepe, and I've also put some splits in the side. Splits? Yes, slits in the side. So it's just got a little bit more of a floaty feel. I was going with the whole beach vibe, sort of tie splash dye fabric feel with it, if that makes sense. So very much original, but just left out the elastic and added some side slits. But I absolutely love this version as well. And I'm really looking forward to some sunny weather so I can get round to wearing it. So this one is a size down one. This one is in the size 12. So hopefully when you're seeing the footage, you'll see the difference between the two. And I will have undone my waist ties. I didn't add waist ties to this one. So then the extension pack mates begin. So the first one I'm going to show you, we'll talk about the facing issue. So this is the wrap version. So it's got a wrap over bodice here, and this is in a gorgeous Lady McElroy fabric. And again, this is from another subscription box that I subscribe to here in the UK. It's the Little Miss So-and-So subscription box where you can pick your pattern and pick your fabric. And I think that month I wasn't particularly interested in the pattern, but I loved this fabric and decided that I wanted to get it. So the wrap over bodice has a facing. Now, just move a little bit closer. What I've ended up having to do with this, because it doesn't talk to you about stitching the facing anywhere to keep it secure in place. It doesn't even really tell you to understitch it, which is quite frustrating. And this is because style arc instructions aren't brilliant, and I will talk about that at the end. So I have done a top stitch line across here in between the two raglans, and then when I tried it on, the facing was still trying to pop out. So I've ended up doing a little stitch all the way down both sides, which is almost like a bias binding stitch. And to be fair, if I make this again, and I will make this again because I really like it, I will just do bias binding rather than putting a facing in. What I then had to do, because the facing is actually quite a wide facing, I've ended up putting some tacks in the dark spots so you can't see it. I know they're there, but you can't see it, just to keep it in place because it kept wanting to pop out. The other thing I'll say about this is where you've got the wrap over front, I highly recommend putting it on. So the notches for me weren't quite far enough over to give me that security that the girls weren't going to come out kind of thing. So what I did was I tried it on and then I just pinned it where I needed it to be. It's quite loose fitting, you know, it is supposed to. And this is a structured fabric, so in a viscose that may have been even worse, but just make sure you get that placement right for you so it's tight enough on you, because there is no darts in this. So I do really recommend trying it on. And then for the sleeve, I have gone for this gorgeous cuff. It's got a lovely deep cuff and it's got a gathered in sleeve head. I don't know if you can see that gathering there. And I have done the midi length for this one. I did spend a lot of time going up and down my stairs to look in my mirror that's at the top of my stairs, trying to work out whether I wanted the long length or the slightly shorter length. So yes, that one is beautiful and I'm really pleased with how that's turned out. Ooh. So the next one I want to talk about, when I've pulled my other one up, it's falling off the rail, is the keyhole opening. Now I saw a version of this on Instagram. There wasn't too many of the extension pack versions for me to go off and have a nose at, but I really liked the way that somebody had actually finished the sleeves off. So I'd cut it to do the cuff on it, so it's got a slightly shorter sleeve. But actually, a happy mistake, I was sewing this at my sewing social, forgot to take the cuffs with me, and decided, with the help of the ladies in my group, just to leave it loose, because it's a lovely viscose fabric and it's got that kind of floaty feel. And I think with the keyhole opening at the top, it works really well. So I've done the short version for this, so just sits above the knee. And then I had a bit of a nightmare with this keyhole opening. So on the instructions, which are awful, there is a piece that comes slightly further over when you cut the bodice, and it tells you to turn and then turn again, but then it doesn't allow you to finish the seams that run down the bottom, because you've actually got on the inside, let me see if I can show you the inside, you've still got a seam here that you need to finish, and if you turn this, it wouldn't allow you to finish that. And it was driving me around the bend. So what I ended up doing was just doing a double fold, just finishing them off and then doing the fold, as you can see on the inside there. So it's just got that one fold, but there is a nice finished edge on it. Now, the other thing I had a problem with was the bias binding, and I don't know whether I'd cut this wrong or done something wrong with it. Next time I will just cut it a little bit longer because it's ever so short. I feel like that should be a bit longer so it can sort of, the tie can drape a little bit more, but it's one of those things I know for the next version that I make. But I really like this version. I feel that it's a very springy summer floaty dress. This this viscose poplin was from Pound Fabrics in the UK. I think it was only about £3.95 a metre. It was nice and cheap, and it's really done the job. And I know it's not coming up as raspberry pink as it actually is, but it's got that lovely pop of pink, and obviously it's animal print, so what more can you complain about? So yeah, I love that version. That's a really pretty one. I'm looking forward to having another go at making a few more of those ones up. They'll make excellent summer dresses. And the final version, so this one is another cotton poplin, why do I keep saying poplin? Cotton lawn make. It's from another Lady McElroy fabric. I think this fabric is called Artisan, if I remember rightly. And this is the button down version. So you can see here, I have messed up a little bit with my buttons, sorry, but for some reason I went upwards, so I've just not left enough space. But I think they look beautiful. And then I've got my little label in here that says creativity never goes out of style. The buttons are from my shop, which is Jazz and Wow, and I think they blend in really nicely with this. Now on the instructions, well, I say the instructions because it's not really the instructions, but on the pictures and diagrams from the instructions, you can see that it asks you to top stitch the facing down at this nice thick length and then down the side here. So you'd be looking at your top stitching coming out this far. I didn't really like that look. I didn't think it was a particularly clean look, but I did think that because you've got the buttons and the buttonholes going in, that would keep the facing in place. So what I've done is, again, I've stitched between this line in the back of the raglan to keep the back facing in, which works brilliantly. And then as you can see, you've got in here, you can't actually see because the buttons are done up, but you've got your button stitches and your buttonholes are also in there as well. So because you've got those in place, that facing isn't going anywhere. Again, I decided to do the cuffed sleeves with the gathered in sleeve head. I did shorten these cuffs because I felt that this fabric was, I don't know, a little bit more summery and I wanted it just a little bit shorter. I just felt it suited, and I went for the short skirt. So yeah, I'm really, really happy with this version. I would be really interested to know which one out of all of them is your particular favourite out of all of them. Now, this pattern can be made up in a cotton poplin, as I keep trying to say, a cotton lawn, a linen, a viscose linen, a viscose, basically any lightweight fabric. And depending on how it is, so this one's obviously got a bit more structure, whereas this one is incredibly drapey, and this crepe is also incredibly drapey. So just depending on what kind of image you want in the finished garment depends on what you go for. I don't think I'd make these up in a cotton poplin. I think it would be too stiff. If I was to make one particular version in a poplin, it'd have to be the button down version, but I'd probably put in some waist ties at the side just to cinch me in a little bit, because it would naturally want to flare out. And if you like that smock look, great. But personally, that's not for me. So I think I've talked through any amendments that I've made to this. They were all a really interesting sew, but what I would say, whilst these are really beginner friendly patterns, the instructions aren't brilliant. So if you've got some prior knowledge to sewing raglan sleeves, for example, or just general construction of a garment, putting in armholes, putting buttonholes in, something that you've maybe done that's held your hand, because this one really won't. You have to use your noggin a little bit just to get your way through it. But But there are plenty of people out there on YouTube that have talked about this dress, and there are lots of different places that you can find, even if it's not for this particular type, that you'll be able to find tutorials for putting in a raglan sleeve or something like that, for example, adding buttonholes to your dress. So you will be able to work your way through it. I can see plenty more in my wardrobe. I think that this one's definitely my favourite, with this coming in a close second, but I think that's just the fabric with those two because they're just so very me. But let me know what yours is below. So don't forget to give me a thumbs up if you've liked what you've seen today, and hit that subscribe button if you don't already. I am planning on reviewing the Montana extension pack next. So I have bought that one now, and I'm just about to work my way through making those up. So there will be a review of that one coming out shortly too. Thank you for taking the time to watch me today. I hope you all have a fantastic week and get plenty of sewing done. Take care, and I'll catch you soon. Bye.